a whole round of table full of people per se. I mean, we need to probably change the name to Round Table Talk. I mean, it is a round table per se. True, maybe.
It's a consideration.
But just a quick introduction to the people I have with me today. Right to my immediate left, I'm looking at it online. It looks like my right. We have Sean. He's, as you guys know, he's our social media specialist. I guess you could call him a specialist because sometimes I have to help him out. I mean, I don't know. I'm just joking. Sean is our social media specialist. To my immediate left and to your right again, we have Sydney Bradley, who's new to our team, and she's a community organizer / social advocate for or liaison is the word we use, right? For our organization. To my immediate right, everybody knows him. Your left, we have James Henderson, who is the partner at Newbie Corp, CFO of Black Push. And we have 3 different very interesting topics to talk about. And the reason why I have all these people on here is it's probably one of these topics is probably going to be like 3 to 1. And we could probably even add Disco into who probably has an opinion on this too. But I mean, Ryan, about the COVID shot, I mean, we have 3 to 1 per se, because there's one person at the table who is definitely not going for it. Not yet, at least. So, Sean, tell us, what is your apprehension for the shot?
My apprehensions are, good. My apprehensions are basically, for one, I mean, they kind of rushed out this vaccine, and within rushing out vaccines, you need a test period.
Reason why I have.
And
it wasn't doing a caption. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
From what I understand, Johnson & Johnson already had a pullback on their vaccine. So usually they have maybe a 8-year period or 10-year period of when they actually are testing vaccines. So I mean, in this period, I mean, and it's still not FDA approved, correct?
It is not. It has been given authorization to be speed tracked, but it hasn't been FDA approved as of yet. No.
I'm just really slow to move on things. Sometimes I have analysis paralysis. I'm a real analytical person that my mind leads me to travel down corridors that most people are just like, yo, you thinking too much about that, But I'm like, well, what does this scenario lead? What does this scenario lead? I'm like I look at a chessboard and then try to think, where are these things going to? And then why are these things being moved ahead so quickly?
Right.
So that was pretty much my apprehensions. In addition to in life you just kind of make the best decision you can, with the opportunities or things that you see at the time, and that's what I've been doing.
So for you, Sydney, I know that you had mentioned to me earlier that your whole family has been vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Why do you guys find it? Why is it so important to your family that everybody was vaccinated?
Well, with COVID, I definitely went a little COVID crazy when it first hit with the whole we need to stay inside, we need to wash our hands. And Sean, I've even noticed you wear your mask regularly, so it's not that you don't believe in COVID.
I'm surprised you ain't got it on now. Yeah.
I mean, I just thought, for this I would keep it off, but.
So I mean, I just find it interesting that you don't want the vaccine, but doesn't seem that you don't believe in COVID like some people do.
Oh no, I totally believe it's true. I just don't totally understand exactly how it's being transmitted, and the way that things are being presented. I don't know if that's accurate. So I'm just a thinking person that I like to take an assessment on my own and look at the picture that's being painted and then say, okay, what do I gain from this?
And speaking of that, I know, James, you've been fully vaccinated, right?
Yes.
What's been your reaction to the vaccine?
My reaction to it?
What was the purpose of you getting it? Why did you feel like you needed to get it?
Yeah, it was painful, man. Yeah. So that was my actual initial reaction. My arm was sore. But I actually went ahead and decided to do it because I do like to travel, and with my grandchildren being, my grandson being as young as he is, and my other granddaughters being their age and stuff, I didn't want to be the reason why they got sick when I came to visit, whether I was driving or on the plane. And nowadays they're packing the planes in. And I just, I didn't want to take it when they first were talking about it. Oh no, I won't do it, this, that, and the other thing. But when it came down to me, making that decision, do I want to be the reason why somebody else is getting sick? No, I don't want to be the reason. So I went ahead and took it. And it was just, it just made sense for me to go ahead and at least try to protect myself and protect the people that I love. Because, I'll share this with you all. I heard a story earlier this week, on Monday, actually, where a co-worker was an anti-vaxxer type and got it. And his family got it, wife and kid. And his wife is currently fighting for her life now, because of COVID. And is that something that possibly could have been prevented had they taken the shot? Yeah, the possibility is pretty high. But that's not to say that they wouldn't have gotten it. It just maybe wouldn't have affected her in such a severe manner.
Right.
And a lot of people that are getting COVID still, some of them may actually have underlying issues which make it so much easier for them to get it, that and it affects them and maybe possibly even take their lives.
So one of the things I look at is like, I'm data driven like you, right? I have to admit, like, I was very skeptical of it, even when it was originally talked about. So just telling my story, and you can kind of testify to this. So last year, I remember I was supposed to have surgery, and I was getting ready to have surgery, and literally, they had just changed the policies where the governor had opened up the state of Georgia to start resuming surgeries, and I had went to go get my test. I went to go get tested at the hospital. They made me go, and they were doing it because it was on a Saturday. My surgery was scheduled for Monday, so they were doing like one of those quick tests, but it was still a PCR test, but they were doing it like where they sent it directly to the lab to get the results back. And I remember driving home. Well, no, I wasn't driving home. I think I was going to do an orientation class, to teach orientation class at my job, and I'm getting like halfway there, and I get a phone call saying like, we have to cancel your surgery. I'm like, for what? You have to cancel my surgery? Like, what's going on? There's like, your COVID test came back positive. I said, there's no way. There's absolutely no way it could have came back positive, because I've been going to Georgia Tech getting tested. I've done a rapid test. I've done all these things, and there's no way. So I didn't believe it. And Jane can testify this, because I called Jane. I was like, this got to be a fool. How are you feeling? He was like, he was fine, and we were in the same place at the time. And we ended up, I ended up going to Georgia Tech the same day. And I went to Georgia Tech, and I went and got the COVID test, and it came back negative. So within 4 hours, I had tested positive at Piedmont and tested negative. And I think Ryan, he's going to post up some articles that I had sent him, but literally I had tested positive and negative within 4 hours of each other. So I was extremely upset. I was calling everybody. It's like, hey, I need to know why, which one is positive, because I worked in the industry where I worked in a restaurant, and there was over 140 employees that worked under me. So it was like, I didn't want to be out there working knowing I could affect somebody. So James ended up getting tested, I think, too. His test came back negative. And then we end up, the next day on Sunday morning, I went to this other place that was doing a COVID test, and I went and got tested there. And that test came back a couple of days later, negative. So he has two articles that are posted up, and one was on the Fox 5 and the other one's on 11 Alive, where they had an article about me. It's like, COVID, Cobb County man tests positive and negative for COVID, just hours apart from each other. So we was talking about the unreliability of the test. So they made me quarantine for 30 days. 30 days later, I went back to Piedmont, did the test again. What do you think happened? I tested positive again. So at that point, they made me quarantine for 45 days or something like that. And at the same time, while all this is going on, we're in the same area. Right. He's good. Right. Ever since I'm testing positive, he's going to get tested, no problem. And then it took me about 45 days in order to get clear of that. And then I ended up scheduling me for surgery. And right after they scheduled me for surgery, do you have the one, it was like the hospitals, the one about the hospitals? But right after they had scheduled me for surgery, I went the day before my surgery, which is July 26th or June 26th or something like that. The day before I went to the hospital to get tested, I came out negative. And James testified to this. About 2 weeks into the hospital. I'm 2 weeks into the hospital. I'm sitting in the hospital, and I get sick. I get extremely sick, stuttering, and fever, throwing up. everybody's like, what's going on? So they end up testing me for all these different things, and it came back that I had E. coli. There was some fluid in my lungs, and then that's the one. Yeah, that's the right one. And then they end up coming back that I had COVID again. So this article right here is on the screen now. It says, despite safety measures, COVID-19 infecting patients inside the hospital. So remember, prior to the hospital, I was free of COVID. 2 weeks into my recovery from surgery, I ended up testing positive for COVID again. And at that point in time, it had come out that like there was only 2 people in the whole country, and I think in the world at that point, who they had been able to prove that had been tested twice, like COVID positive twice. I was one of those people who were reinfected. And the second time I had it was totally different experience than the first time I had it. Like, of course, I was recovering from surgery, had E. coli and all this other stuff. And I just look at like the toll it put on my body. Like even today, like my taste is not always there. Even today, like my memory, like one of the things that I've found out recently, and I've been reading articles about, is that people who have had COVID have been complaining about memory lapse and all that kind of stuff. My memory's not always there, so I'm taking Prevagen at this point. I feel like an old man. I'm taking Prevagen. I'm trying to keep it all together. And by the grace of God, thank God for the people we have working here. You know, they help kind of keep me on track. But just the impact that it has on a person's body, to me, is something that you just don't forget or miss. So like I was even thinking about this the other day, like from just October of last year to right now, I've had to personally bury or be a part of 3 funerals that I know of people who died from COVID. One lady, literally, I remember her last year. We called her while she was in the hospital. She's like, don't worry about it, I'm going to beat this thing. I got this beat. That was a Saturday. By Sunday morning, she had died from COVID. And the vaccine wasn't available then. Of course, we know that. But then I go to people like my uncle this year in February. You guys were all here. I think you were here. Yeah. My uncle was the only one of all his brothers and sisters, and I think I got a picture of him too. I just sent to Disco, but he was the only one out of all my brothers and sisters that did not get his COVID shot. And they're older. They're in their 70s and 80s. And he would not go get it. We kept trying to push him. He's like, I don't need it. I got it. And all of a sudden, he ended up the story was weird because we couldn't find my uncle for like a couple of days. And finally, somebody was like, well, let's call the hospital and see where he's at. And we called the hospital, and that's how we found out that he was even in the hospital. And we didn't know why he was in the hospital. We just knew that he was in the hospital. And when we found him in the hospital, he had only been there 2 days, and he was unresponsive in his day number 2. Like 2 days after he had been in the hospital for COVID, he was unresponsive. And by the time we got a hold of him, he was in ICU already. He was already on a ventilator. He was not able to respond. His brain memory, he had lost I think he had 20%. He was working off 20% of his brain functionality. And I remember, one of the things that I can never forget is I still remember the day I went down there when the doctor said there was nothing more that they can do for him. And I had to go talk to my uncles and aunties and make the choice to take him off the ventilator. I still remember sitting in the room because they had put on the whole PPE suit. So I'm sitting in the room and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, I just want you to know, you're not alone in this process. But having to go through that, and when they pulled him off the ventilator, him literally dying 4 minutes from the time they pulled him off the ventilator to the time he died. And then I keep going past that. A young guy who was a member of my church just recently died, 38 years old. And just from the same thing, COVID, didn't get his vaccine. He had underlying conditions, but still, it's the impact that it has on a person. Once a person is gone, you can't bring them back. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to say it like that, but my uncle didn't have any kids. He had us as a family, and he left us as a family, but you know what I'm saying, he wasn't responsible for a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old that he had to continue to raise. Or if something was to happen to him, he was going to be leaving his wife or his husband or her husband or whatever to raising the child by themselves, right? So that's something that I always kind of think about, the void that it leaves on a family, to lose somebody, definitely when you didn't expect to lose them. You know what I'm saying? I think it's different when you death is hard. Even my grandma passed, we knew she was going to die. Right. It was difficult still, but to just that unexpectedness of it, to be dealing with somebody 2 days of my uncle literally called me a week before that. It was hey, have you heard from Ian? Or hey, have you done this? Or hey, I need some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? A week ago. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm trying to figure out how to plan his funeral, how to get the money in his bank account, how to do his life insurance policy, what kind of casket should we get. You know what I'm saying? Just the impact of it. And I think personally, from my opinion, again, because of COVID, the reality is that the myths out there. Let's talk about the myths, right? Some of the myths is that they came up with the vaccine so quick. COVID has not just come around. Every article that you read about it, it's been around for years, almost 10 years. They've been working on COVID and the impact of it. They knew it was around, And so, of course, when people talk about the vaccine coming out quick, it was not a quick vaccine. This vaccine has been in the works for a time. They sped it up in the end because now that the virus was so detrimental, they had to do something about it. But COVID is one of those things that too, and I think this is for everybody, like COVID is one of those things that it doesn't just impact you. And that's the part that it makes me so mad. Like before the vaccine, when I used to walk into a grocery store and people used to be in there without a mask or without like washing their hands, it always irked me because like this is something that just doesn't impact you. And I think that's a big part of the debate. Like people really think that it's their body, they can do what they want to do with their body, and it doesn't impact nobody else, but it does, right?
Right, and that goes exactly into like the social distancing that people are not following.
Right.
The 6 foot rule where people are standing right behind you and you're checking out in the grocery store. It doesn't make any sense because that's not just your autonomy at that point, that's the person who you're standing next to.
What school you went to? Throwing out autonomy on us. Autonomy.
Bring the microphone to.
But and it's not just impacting you. So Sean, like for you to be, you haven't got it.
Right.
Earlier today you said that your wife has it though.
I have.
Yes.
And your wife has it because
She travels.
she travels a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, even we have a lot of friends. Pretty much, I would say about 95% of people I know have gotten it. I have family members that's, like healthcare professionals. Other people that just, wanted to travel. They've been out of the country, so they all got it. And I have people that haven't gotten it, that are healthcare professionals, have gotten COVID and recovered fine. I've had other family members that said they had COVID-like symptoms, so they had to, fall back, and they actually have underlying symptoms already. So, I mean, I feel like, don't make me the advocate for it. Like you represent the non-vaccinated
community. Yeah.
And his name is, so, but I still feel like, like when it first started taking place, and you start seeing kind of people just dropping left and right. It was like with all of that going on and all the things like in politics going on, it was just a bombardment of like negative information going on. And at a certain point, I just kind of checked out from social media. You were quarantined in the house. Although with quarantine, my lifestyle didn't change much because I was doing remote
working anyway.
And I mean, probably the only thing that we didn't do as much as we were doing prior to that was seeing our family that lived, 8 minutes away, and then we started like getting our groceries delivered, wiping them down, make sure everything is disinfected, washing your hands to the point now you got your skin is cracking and things like that. But also when I was looking at people going to the hospital and then them saying, well, you have COVID, but we can't do anything for you. We can put you on this ventilator and, or you have COVID, you need to go quarantine at your house. So I'm like, this is essentially me taking my car to the mechanic and I'm like, yo, it has a problem. And then you come back and tell me, oh, it has a problem. I'm like, well, that's what I told you when I got here. So you're telling me nothing. But you're telling me that I should go take this drug that I really don't know what's in it. I mean, although they tell us that with other drugs too, and you don't know what's in it. But behind that is the history of what has happened with these drugs when people have taken them. So, until I could, in my mind state, I was thinking, well, when they approve this for like the military, then I would be a little bit more less apprehensive about it because you wouldn't give it to your military because you need that. You know what I mean? So,
But I mean, think about it like this too. So, I mean, in Texas, just recently in Texas, there was a hospital who got sued because they made it mandatory that everybody in the hospital had to have the COVID shot. The people who didn't take it, they either furloughed them or they terminated their employment. And they took them to the Texas Supreme Court, and the Texas Supreme Court kind of struck down the whole argument. It was like, no, you need to get it done, right? Do you think that as a civilization we want to lose our whole healthcare community? I mean, that's a very vital.
I don't think that I don't think that people will like cut up their nose to spite their face to a degree, but I also know how business works, and a hospital is a business. There was reports of during COVID, flu diagnosed just went to 0, and then COVID went to a ridiculous amount. And I'm no healthcare professional, so I don't know what data is coming through, but I know that flu didn't just go away, and all these other diseases didn't go away because COVID was here.
But you got to think about what COVID exposed, right? COVID exposed that we were not as clean as we thought we were, right?
Yeah.
And that was the big part. Even the flu. I mean, any kind of virus can be killed if we keep everything clean, keep everything sanitized. And COVID maximized that for us. Like, people were walking around, like, I carry on my keychain, there's a bottle of sanitizer now, right? I mean, I'm just saying. So, I mean, the reality of how I think they were using like the model of Switzerland. They were kind of tracking Switzerland and say, okay, let's see how their flu numbers are now that they're kind of past that point. Because if we can see their flu numbers, then that'll kind of give us an inclination of what we're going to be experiencing during the flu season. But if you're washing your hands for 30 seconds, if you're using sanitizer all the time, if you're wiping everything down, flu numbers should come down because those are viruses, right? We're constantly killing those viruses. So there shouldn't be nothing that surprises. It's actually a good thing, if all reality.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't say it wasn't good, and I didn't say that.
I'm trying to make them, y'all. I'm trying to get them on my team. I can get the vaccine here right now.
Hey, look, you could do that, but I don't think I would take it right away. I mean, those are things that everybody should have been doing anyway. I mean, I was doing them. My family household was doing it anyway. But I still am not blind to the fact that if these numbers were at a certain rate by historically for the last 5 years they were this number, and then now this year they all of a sudden fell off a cliff, and then reports of like people dying from other reasons, but then being marked as a COVID, and it's like but it's like you see so much information that you almost don't know what's the truth and what's not the truth.
Right.
You're bombarded constantly with information, and it's kind of to a point where you're like, okay, I need to basically hunker down, do the things that I've been doing, keep me safe, and see how it falls out. Not to say that I'll never get this vaccination. I've gotten the flu vaccination before, but
in the flu they change their vaccination like every couple of months.
Exactly. Yeah. So what that tells me is it doesn't work. Not saying that that doesn't work, but it's more history behind what's there. So for me, I'm kind of result driven in the point of, if you tell me this is what happens with this, like with a tetanus shot or the measles, and we got rid of that by doing this, I want the same results. But we need the data to actually get to that point. So until we get to that point of the data, I'm still skeptical about what's being done.
But science is almost built off of the idea of evolution. So viruses change, they evolve. Diseases change, they evolve. So vaccines have to change and evolve. They have to
clearly
get with the times, just like society. Like the technology we're using today, it's not anything like the technology
we couldn't do this 10 years ago.
I totally agree.
I wouldn't even talk about 10 years ago. I wouldn't even have my laptop sitting here. It would trying to be plugged into somebody's phone line and trying to get on AOL and waiting for that. You got mail. You know what I'm saying? Like, so technology does evolve.
I'm not saying that it doesn't, but the testing on it and the results need to be presented, and that's what I need to see in order for me to make an educated decision on whether I should move this way or move that way. Now, I mean, consider this, right? So if months from now they say, oh, everybody that got the COVID vaccination, you now have blah blah. We all seen those things that come on, and you might have melanoma, you might have blah blah. You took this between this time and this time. Not saying that I'm all into that, but if that did come across, you can't even sue these people.
Well, if that came across, there'll be
millions and millions of lawsuits. I understand.
No, I'm not talking about lawsuits. Forget about that. If that's the case, then there's going to be millions and millions of people who are going to be out of here real soon. It's going to be like the Avengers series. Half the Earth is. Which
possibly could be.
It's going to be. But the reality is that. So we talk about data driven, because I'm going to shift subjects here in a minute. But being data driven, the reality is that we are seeing that people who are vaccinated are surviving this a lot more than people who are unvaccinated. and that's the reality. Like we have, no matter how we want to isolate, and that's the reality. Like of literally of people who are not being vaccinated, we're seeing them either die. Definitely, even those who have pre-existing conditions, we're seeing them die, or we're seeing that they're not surviving. While those who have been vaccinated seem like they're able to fight. Like I know friends who have been vaccinated who have caught in COVID, and they're very upset because they, in their head, they thought that when they took the shot, that was just to make them immune. But that was not the reality. That was never the promise. The promise was that if you took the shot, it would prevent you from ending up on a ventilator. And that's what people have to remember. And I just think that, like you, I get it, right? Because I was, even with COVID, probably a year ago before I had COVID, I was like, nah, forget it. But, and even after the first time I had COVID, I still probably been like, nah, forget it. But it was that second experience and the impact that it had, and then seeing the impact it's had on people since that time. And it's harder for me, definitely been in ministry, it's harder for me to go visit. It's easier for me to go visit somebody in the hospital who's still functional versus going to see somebody in the hospital who has 100 tubes running out of their body and depending on the machine to live for them. And that's something that I think that doesn't leave families. Like I was just reading an article earlier this week. There's a sheriff down in one of the counties in Georgia where they just had to bury, I think, like their child, and the child was like somewhere between 4 and 8, I think. And that loss is something that you just can't feel. So it's like, and it's interesting because I was telling them earlier today, like I have friends who say I'm not getting the vaccine, but my mama need to go get in line and get the vaccine. So you gonna send mama to go get the vaccine, but you sitting at home and like, nah, I'm good. I wait for my doctor to tell me to go get the vaccine.
I never sent anybody to get any vaccine.
No, I'm not talking about you. I have some friends, and you know some people I'm talking about. They have sent their parents and like, yeah, you need to go get your vaccine so you can make sure you push through this thing. And the reality, but then this is too, and this will be the last thing I say on COVID. But the reality is that we've seen enough people get vaccinated around us. Like you just said, your wife, you say your whole family. I have a whole bunch of members in my family. You know a whole bunch of people, right? And me, all three of us on this side over here have all been vaccinated. And I don't have a third eye yet. I don't feel anything. I just got my STD results. I'm good. Nothing extra, you know what I'm saying?
So far.
Right. But
this ain't what is it?
But you know, here's one of the things. You know, this testing on a large scale. You know, and this is particularly black people. Because of our history with the government, and when it came to testing, what comes to mind is Tuskegee, being one of them, and there's a lot of distrust, even though we have made so much progress as a people. We're doctors, you know, and attorneys and whatnot, and a lot of it, that old sentiment of not trusting the government when it came to testing is still there, you know, and you know, so that could very well be part of the reason why some aren't taking it. So.
I still don't blindly advocate for trusting the government. I just believe that science has some doing in the prevention of things. So that's kind of why I'm more of an advocate for the vaccine. But I mean, given our history as black people and the Tuskegee Airmen being experimented on, that was my first thought when the vaccine came about, especially when Biden had made the remark about it needing to be pushed into black communities. So.
Yeah, because we were the most skeptical of it. But I mean, my personal recommendation is if you can get it, go get it. It's free. I mean, and we have a whole lot of schools that even today, as of today, a whole lot of schools in a whole lot of different states have announced that it's going to be mandatory that the kids wear masks because we do have a new variant out there that it seems to be a lot more dangerous. And it seems to be ripping through neighborhoods a lot more. So keep your babies safe, man, and do what you got to do. Wash your hands, like clean your hands. Don't have time for that. Sanitize. Wipe everything down. Like we got this.
Yeah, because see, this is the new.
Not on screen, but we got it. As soon as we're done, everything.
Should have been normal.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, now that everyone's talking about, I can't wait until we get back to normal. No, this is the new normal. Mask, sanitizer, disinfectant. That's the new normal.
It should have been a new normal to begin with, though.
Well, true, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so getting back to life as we used to know it a couple of years ago compared to today, this is the new normal. Yeah. There's no going back to what we used to know 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. That's all changed. So we just got to roll with it, do whatever we can to and still continue with the social distancing. Just because they said you don't have to wear your mask anymore, don't get duped into that. Wear your mask, because you don't know if the person next to you has it or had it, and whether or not they've been vaccinated. You just don't know. So you still have to be on guard and protect yourself.
So shifting focus. Yesterday we had a great opportunity to go and play a part of something that's bigger than us, right?
Right.
Even though Black Push doesn't really advocate for, per se, it's not on our platform. We deal with social injustice, voter suppression, and we know ex-offender rehabilitation. And Newbie Corp deals with minority businesses, so it's not on either one of our platforms. But I personally believe that a big part of social injustice is what goes on in the community as far as labor. Labor has to do with social injustice, how we treat people. So we've been doing this for a while. We've been going out and protesting with the AFL-CIO and the, God, I always mess up the name and she's going to kill me. I hope she don't see this. But other unions out here in the state of Georgia, with Miss Sandra Williams, Miss Yvonne, they have been amazing partners in this process, and they've invited us out to almost everything. And we've had the spiritual community as well. But yesterday we got a chance to celebrate the great Mark Butler of the Labor Secretary of the great state of Georgia. Yesterday was his birthday, so happy birthday, Mr. Butler, first off. But we took him a cake, per se, we took him a cake, and somebody baked him something special on the side. But the whole purpose of us doing this is that, as you guys know, the federal government has been offering or increasing or extending unemployment benefits, where they've been giving out whatever your state is giving you plus an additional $300. And the governor of the state of Georgia decided that if he got rid of this supplement and got rid of the unemployment program, that he would push people back to working. The reality is that some of the jobs he's trying to push people back to work at
still don't pay.
Pay has been lessened.
Pay has been lessened, and even somebody brought up a valid point yesterday. They talk about all these jobs that are on the Department of Labor website. Some of those jobs are from 2017, 18, 19, or they require you to get new certifications or to have 3 years of experience or 8 years of experience, right? How do you tell somebody who just lost their job to go get 3 years of experience in a field what they don't know nothing about? Like, how do y'all feel about some of the things we've been doing from a labor perspective and some of the things that we've recently seen in the stories that we heard?
All of this has been really tragic.
Yeah.
When you pull away resources from people, you're pretty much just going to get anarchy. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing that separates man
you can leave them up for now.
From beasts is 3 meals a day.
That's photos.
And when everything first hit, you saw people rushing to the store to buy toilet paper.
Right.
And just stockpiling. And it's like people with resources to go buy, I'm going to buy 50 rolls of toilet paper. And then some people are like, I can't find toilet paper for my whole neighborhood. It kind of gets ridiculous. So, to say to people that don't have the resources are unreasonable, I just feel like it's not fair. You know what I mean? If the shoe was on the other foot, they would want the same help that these people are looking for. So, if people would just live by doing to others, you wouldn't need any other rules.
Yeah.
It's a shame that people that have been able to amass, a lot of wealth would just try to just push other people off the map or under the rug or wherever they want to go. It's just kind of crazy.
What's really shocking to me is the fact that everything has gone up in cost, especially the cost of living.
Absolutely.
Apartments, like the average it's gone up from $1,500 to $1,600 within a month, like as the average ask for a decent, 4-point-star apartment, 4 out of 5-star apartment, which is still having, complaints, because I've been on the apartment hunt. I know they all have complaints, they all have all these expectations, and if you don't have like the renter history or the credit to buy a house, not to mention lumber costs have gone up, so it's really, everything's super expensive, but the pay's gone down, the amount of jobs have gone down, so the fact that what they're expecting you to pay for like the cost of living, and then the amount that they're willing to pay you to fund their businesses, to fund the economy, and their checks have gone up. So yeah.
Yeah, but it hasn't trickled down enough to the common working man. And
but
so
it never does.
It's still, and each state is going to end up having to make the compensation for And I can see where his, I can kind of get the idea of where he's coming from as far as the state is concerned and getting people back on their feet and working again. The problem is you're not paying these people enough for the job that they're getting ready to do. Bottom line.
And
so
the
there's
risks.
going to have to be, and you still have the risks of that come along with being exposed to the general public. So, until you can do like California or somebody and, minimum wage is $15 an hour, you're going to have a lot of people like, man, look, I can, bump this.
Workers need hazard pay. What if you get sick and you have to be out for 2 weeks?
Right.
Where's the guarantee that you're going to be able to pay rent?
Right.
Yeah, and this is the thing for me. It's like Georgia pushed people back into the economy, but we didn't build the economy for the people. So I mean, it's like, how do you say to them, like, hey, go back out into the economy and go out and do a job, but we didn't build an economy that suffices for you to be able to survive. Like you were saying, in the middle of COVID, I rent, right? In the middle of COVID, my rent went from $1,200 to $1,300. In the middle of COVID, when I was like, what I'm saying, my owner was like, oh, I don't care what you got going on, but I need to take my rent up $100, right? And I mean, luckily enough for me, I was able to push through it, right? But there's some people out there who can't. And there's some people out there who are still struggling with it. Like, how do you sit around, like, I don't get how a state that our real true minimum wage is $5.25 an hour. The only reason people get $7.25 an hour here is because federal supersedes state, right? It's not cheap staying in Georgia no more. Like, my family, I remember from Florida, my family's always like, oh, we're moving to Georgia because it's so much cheaper. It's bit me from where I'm from down South Florida. Ryan knows this. Like, it's truly expensive, right? This is cheaper, but the cost of staying here has gone up. But the income has not gone up. I mean, gas prices right now, what, $2.99? And when COVID first started, it was like $2.50 something, $2.40 something. I mean, so you tell me that, hey, you take away my benefits. I want you to go out and get a job. I have a car now that I really can't even afford to pay for my car, and now you want to put $2.99 an hour. I mean, in a gallon gas in my car, and I can't even afford to put food on my table. And I mean, and then they're forcing people. Like I seen something the other day where they were forcing people who were getting unemployment benefits, partial unemployment benefits. They're telling them that they have to go down to the career center and go talk to somebody, but from what I understand, most aren't they closed? And isn't the Department of Labor in the state of Georgia still closed? We were in front of the office yesterday, wasn't it? They were closed.
Changed. The gate was in front of it. You can't even knock on the window if you wanted to.
But yet they want people to go back to work when the state hasn't gone back to work yet.
Right.
But the part I don't understand is, like, why won't they open up? What's their
no one goes in the Department of Labor anyway. I never understood that. I mean, it's like you can't just walk up in there anyway. Like, there's security that you have to go through. I don't get, but most of these people are still. I've called the Department of Labor before for even some of our things we have going on with our employees here. These they got their babies running by in the background. Like, hold on one second, they're working from home, but once again, the reason why the state is doing that is because they don't want the risk of putting people back out into society that they can catch COVID. Now they have, they can potentially sue the state. But yet, while we're arguing about that, the governor just announced last week that the state of Georgia has a $6.4 billion surplus. What do you think some of that surplus came from? The surplus came from the fact, the reality is that they were pushing out unemployment benefits, but they wasn't paying for it. The federal government was paying for it. Like, why would we want to take away something that we as a state are not even paying for?
I don't know.
And I mean, the funny part is usually we have something to say back, but nobody can disagree with that. Like, it was saving me money. As an employer, it was saving me money to, I mean, if we could, and as an employer, and even a lot of employees now, like, that can't afford to be open, that is trying to keep their doors open, it helped the employers to be able to have that partial unemployment to where they can still allow their employees to come in and work their 20 hours a week and still make sure they were getting income on the other side. That helped employers to be able to stay open and keep employees. I'm just, listen, I'm flabbergasted. I don't get how it helps the economy to take money out of the economy, because simple economics say the more money we put into the economy, the more money that the economy receives. And I'll be interested to see how Georgia's economy does now that they've taken away unemployment benefits.
Sometimes they put the cart before the horse to try to get it down the road, and it doesn't make any sense. But you got some folks that are okay with cutting off their nose to spite their face.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, then I think I read an article that 72% of people who was on unemployment benefits was paying back and paying taxes out of those benefits. So that means that the state of Georgia was getting a kickoff
Right.
Because they
kickback.
we pay state taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. And maybe that's another part of that $6.4 billion surplus.
Right.
I mean, but it's like, well, where is that money going? Like, it's a surplus. You know what I mean? I just don't feel like they'd be
How do
sitting
they plan
around.
on using that money?
Listen, State of Georgia got enough problems. Maybe if they stop attacking fake news about elections and stuff like that, we can invest money into mental health, into reforming our criminal justice system, into making sure people have a living wage, into making sure people can go to school to get trained for the jobs of the future. Because we got to be honest, some of these jobs they're trying to send us back to are not jobs of the future. They're going to be wiped away in the next 10 years or so. You know what I'm saying? It's great to be in the USA.
Honestly, I don't know if I would go anywhere else. But at the same time, you know, pulling the rug from other people is just going to create anarchy. I mean, honestly, like when you start pulling people food away and they can't feed their kids, they're going to go find the money.
The worst is still yet to come.
That's clear.
Because the housing moratorium thing doesn't ends in about a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when it's really going to get real.
Once that takes place, you're going to really see some stuff, you know, get screwy when it comes to people and their finances and everything. You said you've been apartment hunting and looking around and stuff. And what I've discovered and you know, that there was two things that took place. One, somebody was asking, one of the requirements is that you need to make 4 times the amount of the
I think it's 3 times the amount of your rent.
Well, this one particular place told me 4. So I was thinking, I was like, oh, you only want a select group of people here living here. Okay, but the average person is you know, they're doing well to do 3 times, much less a 4th. But that was just one of them. But with this moratorium, one of the things I keep hearing is we won't have anything available until mid to late September.
I keep hearing that as well.
and part of that is because
people being evicted.
Right. And the sheriffs aren't doing anything. The sheriff and marshals, they're not doing anything right now until the moratorium is up. So they got a stack of papers, but they can't deliver them. Not until August 1st. Then you'll start seeing the wheels of justice turning much faster. But then you're going to get backlogged because now, I mean, it's just a snowball, a domino effect that's going to take place. Meanwhile, these folks are back and forth. They got to take off time to go to court, but they're supposed to be at work at whatever, you know, $11, $12 an hour, whatever it is.
But is it justice that they're losing their houses because they're getting paid such a small wage?
No.
I mean, the wheels of justice, like instead of them just building with the surplus of money, instead of them just building more affordable housing for people, they're just waiting to kick them out when the time runs up. Yeah,
and the thing is that there's going to be a lot of people who with their mortgages. So right now it's a seller's market, and if you're a seller and you've gone under because you just ain't been paying your mortgage over these last few months because you've been out of work. Well, now you either got to sell it and get rid of it, get it out of your pocket real quick, or either you sell it or you're either back at work or doing something to get caught up because your time frame is up. You know, in about a week, and after that, you're going to I think you're going to see a swing in the housing market because of that. You know, and then it's going to become a buyer's market just that fast. So instead of getting an apartment, you'll be buying a house.
I mean, I'm all for young investors now.
No, I'm just saying.
I mean, those are the things that we have to take into consideration when you talk about labor, and then the stuff that follows that it's connected to, and how it's going to affect a lot of people here and across the country. Much, you know, not to mention the state of Georgia.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, investing in a house is definitely like the best idea, but as far as like the processes that it takes to actually get approved for that, it's still like eliminating a good amount of people.
Yeah.
So
like legal redlining.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to leave it like this. What Sean said earlier today, I think we have to get back to the concept, do unto others as you have others to do unto you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand what person, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, would say that they will be content with knowing that they go home and they can't feed their kids, and that you should be okay with that.
Yeah.
And we know, I mean, once we push this podcast today, some people are going to go in there and say, well, they need to get back to work. Even if one person even made a comment on one of our posts one time we was doing the Department of Labor. It's like, even if they're making $2.25 an hour, it's an earnest income. You show me how to survive on $2.25 an hour.
Right.
And if you can, in fact, I challenge Governor Kemp, I challenge Secretary of Labor Mark Butler, if you guys can show me how to live off $7.25 an hour with, base minimum. I'm talking about, I want you to go stay in the hood and the smallest apartment you can find for $600 to $700 an hour. Show me how to make that work off $7.25 an hour. Show me how to make that work while you're sitting out here at a restaurant busting your behind, where you have to catch the bus in order to do so. Show me how to work when you have 2 or 3 kids that you have to put food on the table for. And then if you can do that and you can prove it to me that it works, then well, you know what? I'll become your biggest advocate for it.
Well, the statement that the person sent is true. It's earnest money. Problem is, it doesn't go anywhere.
But it's not like, but this is the thing about it. You can't get anything out of unemployment. No, but this is the big kicker, right? All these people who talking about these people on unemployment are lazy. You can't get anything out of unemployment unless you pay something into unemployment.
Right.
So you had to have worked. You had to have worked. And if you're getting the match, you had to really have worked or had a good, decent job. So it's not like people who are getting unemployment are just getting free money. They paid into unemployment.
That's right.
They invested, they went and worked their behind off, and every 2 weeks they gave a check to the state for unemployment.
So you mean to tell me nobody, I don't know, loud enough. So you mean to tell me nobody can get unemployment that never had a job before?
If you never had a job before, you would get denied.
So all the benefits that's going out now, if you never had a job at all,
You would not get unemployment. So I remember, and this is true, I remember working for Subway. We had a huge problem with our payroll company because they had not been reporting our unemployment taxes, right? So there's a whole group of employees. We had like 80 employees that could not get unemployment because the ADP had not been, the payroll company had not been reporting unemployment taxes to the state. We had to work like hell to get that fixed so that these employees were able to go ahead and get unemployment. But if you had not paid a certain amount into the system, you were not able to get nothing out of the system. Yeah. So that's the way the system is set up. So I don't understand like how you can say people are lazy. Yeah. When these people paid into the system.
I personally had, I was getting unemployment and then it ran out.
Yeah.
So it was like, now you got to figure it out.
That definitely happens.
And, luckily for me, I was able to, do freelance here, do things here and there.
And you found a great place like Black Push to hire you.
I found a great place.
Yeah.
Like this.
To hire him. And
but
he has been.
If you can't get any money,
money too.
People are going to go find ways.
I rebuke that.
But
we got to go find it.
Joke, right?
No, I'm just saying. Even for us, like I was looking the other day at the rate we pay on unemployment taxes versus some of the companies I worked for before, and I was surprised that we paid more than a company I know that has way more employees than we had. And in the last quarter, when I looked, because I still whatever, I was looking at comparing the two. Like we paid way more, almost double what they paid in unemployment taxes, and we have way less employees than they have. But once again, right now, if I was to fire you, you have every right to get unemployment because you pay into it. Period. Right. Yeah. Every 2 weeks, we take out of your check unemployment. We send a nice check to the state. They don't never tell us no to send the money back. Right. So, at the end of the day, like it's something that you paid into. Last thing I want to bring up, right? So the question is always asked: why are black people so upset with the justice system? Right? Earlier this week, we know that there was a guy who had stormed the Capitol. He ended up getting, this is I think the first sentence of the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. He ended up getting 8 months in federal prison. Okay, 8 months. I want y'all to count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 months in federal prison. All right?
Not years.
There was an article of a guy, I think out of South Carolina or North Carolina, who was black, and who had been charged with pulling down a Confederate statue. He got 4 years in federal prison. First time offense, didn't have a background like this other guy. What's the difference?
Skin color. Let's not be like,
And that's coming from somebody who comes from a household that has both?
Yes, I come from interracial parents. My mother's white, my dad's black. But like, let's be very non-coy about things, huh?
Sorry, I was saying keep the dream alive.
Yeah, keep the dream alive. But let's be, like race plays a large factor in how everybody looks at you, which is very unfortunate. But they see you and automatically, just like at the protest, we all saw the teenagers getting pulled out of the cars and stopped and arrested, and then
police busting windows on kids.
Busting windows. The two white girls in the car in front of them just waving at the cameras. They didn't stop them. They all were leaving at the same time, but they didn't stop the girls in front of them. They stopped the young black couple. And that's just like, that's how it is. That's how it
wasn't
is in
even
society.
protesting, if I recall. They were going to get something to eat or something like that, right? And got caught up in the protest. Yeah, they were going to get something to eat. And they were college students. And this is people who are parents.
They were trying to say the windows were so dark they couldn't see what they was doing inside.
That still don't give you right to bust nobody's car windows. I know, I get you. And we've been in meetings with Atlanta Police Department for that. Still don't give you the one to take a club and bust somebody and pull them out of the car.
Well, they were saying because of the circumstances of what's going on, the girls in front, they could see them, particularly whatever they were doing, waving the cameras. The people inside, they couldn't see exactly what they were doing. But even when they opened the door, the young lady said, "We just going to get some eat." Didn't have no gun.
And they pulled them out.
Yeah. But in Georgia, you can have a gun in your vehicle.
No, that wasn't it. I'm talking about the snatching part.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, for that to even be a reason for them to say, like, oh, we don't know what you have. You can have a gun in your vehicle in Georgia. So again, that's not a reason. They could have a consent, permit to carry. It's not a reason. They don't ask those questions first.
Yeah, my thing is that 8 months for literally almost bringing down the whole aspect of what we what we stand for, like, just because of the fact that people got out and voted and you're mad, like, okay, I'm not gonna, let's be honest, right? 2000, what was the last election? 2018? No, 2016.
Whatever it was.
16, right? I know who I didn't vote for.
Right.
And the person I voted for, literally, I was in New York at the time of the 2016 election. I flew back from New York just to come here and vote for a day and flew right back to New York for training, right?
Right.
And I remember on the night of the election, Hillary had her victory party at one place, and it was a beautiful glass building. And like probably 2 miles up the road, old President Trump had his party, right? So it was like Secret Service had the whole block blocked off. And I remember being there that night, right, at one of the rallies. I'm not gonna say which one I was at. And just around 12 o'clock, the mood just from dancing to people cried. But we left there like, okay, the person we voted for tonight did not win.
Sure.
So
good game.
Like we had to push forward with life, right? We had to hope that the person who won the election was going to be a fair person. Did they turn out to be? That's up for your judgment, right? But we sucked it up and we moved on. I don't know about you, but as a human being, there's a lot of elections that I wanted to go another way and it didn't go the way. But I didn't go storming the Capitol to try to stop it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go try to tear down democracy. I didn't go put my feet on I didn't go in there yelling out saying, "Where's Mike Pence?" or "Where's Nancy Pelosi?" so we can kill them. Right. You know what I'm saying? I didn't take a gun into the Capitol. I didn't kill a police officer in my process. I didn't kill people who were protesting for the same thing I was protesting for. And we stomped all over them, right?
Right.
And people wonder why the African American community is so upset about this kind of stuff. It's because we deal with it every day. The way we're sentenced differently than everybody else. Like, I can't. It pisses me off, and I don't much. I don't much. It irks me. It irks the heck out of me to know that a person who literally tried to stop our democracy and tried to prevent our duly elected president from being for them just doing what they normally do every 4 years. People to be okay with that.
Bigger than that, to just expose the weaknesses of the security.
Yeah.
To basically show everybody this is what can be done if you feel like it.
Well, I don't know if
I understand.
How much you would say. I wouldn't say the weakness, as opposed to someone calling them and telling them, "We got lunch for you over here." Everybody is coming to have lunch over here.
I mean, but
you don't have to worry about whether or not you're on duty.
I agree, but also, I mean, that still exposes the weakness.
Yeah.
If you can manipulate the system, if you have enough reach to say, okay, you guys come over here. That's to me, that's a weakness in security.
If you're the president, you have to reach.
I don't know who did it. I wasn't there. Just like I'm sitting in the
I won't give them back credit.
But I mean, but we know too in reality, like we know that there's people. We know that somebody had to be helping these people out, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
But we can't ever forget that the system was not built for us. The modern day police officers were evolved from slave catchers.
Yeah,
like
that's
just been
That's
a growth in process. So,
but I mean, even past that, it's the fact, the reality. Like I don't know if anybody has been to DC recently. Like I've been there within the last month, right? And just you can go there and stand in front of the Capitol and feel the weight of what happened on January 6th. Like you still feel it. Like you still see it. You still feel it. Like, and to look at it and be like, oh my God, people almost literally burnt this house down. You know what I'm saying? If you've ever been inside of it, like literally almost burnt this house down, went into the Speaker of the House's office and put their feet on their desk, and they have photos of that. Yeah. And we have black people right now, black people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people who are locked up in jail and they have no proof that they're guilty of what they're charged of. Right. And yet they've lost their whole life and they're still losing their whole life. While people, we have pictures and videos of them doing this, we say to them, oh, you know what? 8 months is all you're going to do in prison.
You know, one of the things that bothered me about that whole thing is the terminology that they were tried under. Because when you march up against the government, against your own government, it wouldn't be the first time that the United States has done it, Civil War. But this is, I mean, it's treason.
It's treason.
Yeah.
By the definition of the word.
Yeah.
So why aren't you charging them with crimes of treason against the government?
Yeah.
That's my question. And you know, you can slice it any way you like, but it still comes out to being treason pie, no matter how big or how small the slice is. Mm-hmm. So is it you just want to protect a certain group of people and not try them with treason? Or, you know, I mean, because at that point you're not doing your job.
Mm-hmm. But we have some people in government who just say that this wasn't even a riot. Like there's some people in government who was in the building hiding under desks, literally saying today, like it wasn't a riot. This was just peaceful protesters.
That's because they view white people as less threatening.
Right.
Right. I mean, but it's still, my thing is like, if justice is going to be justice, it has to be blind, period. It can't look at a person's race. It can't look at where a person has come from. Even though it should not. The financial background, it has to be blind all the way around. And we've been having, as you guys know, we've been having meetings on Saturdays with different judges. And we had a meeting recently. And that's one of the questions I always ask them. Like, you know, is justice really blind? Like, are you blind to justice? Are you biased? And one of them, we had a really great conversation this past Saturday. And they were talking about being biased and about like they were saying that everybody has bias in them, right? Yes. And one of the judges was using an example that she used to look at like a certain zip code, like when she's seen certain cases coming from a certain zip code, she's like, oh, this has to be a drug crime already, right? And she said she had to really kind of check herself and be like, you know what, I can't do that, right? I can't be in this position and look at just based upon the zip code, be ready to write somebody off just based upon the zip code because I know the area, right? Right. But listen. For me, I would say this just for me as a personal thing. Like, I know what it feels like to be unjustly prosecuted or unjustly sentenced. Yeah. And as a system, as a society, we haven't gotten as far as we thought we've gotten. And if we don't stand up and do something, then nobody else will. And that's the reality of it. So we have to get out and vote. We have to get out and tell people, like, that we have to get out and educate people on this kind of stuff. That's we need to continue to have the dialogue about it. And we need to let our kids know about our history and where we come from, because if we don't let them know about the history and where we come from, we can't get mad when they don't want to stand up for what they currently see because they don't know our history, right? I don't know. It irks me. 8 months. I'm sorry. 8 months.
Isn't that also is up for arbitration, isn't it? As far as like the history of things.
Right. But you know, the crazy part was Senator Rand Paul, and we'll kind of end here, but Senator Rand Paul was saying to Anthony Fauci and the CDC director, they were all testifying before the Senate this week. And he started his statement. He said, do you know that lying to Congress carries a charge of 5 years in federal prison? So he was trying to insinuate that Dr. Fauci had lied to Congress, right? And that alone can sentence him to 5 years in prison. So lying to someone where you've caused no harm, no one's lost their life, can get you 5 years in prison for lying to Congress, but rioting the Capitol gets you 8 months in prison.
I mean, it depends on who you know.
It depends on who you know. It's crazy. But I want everybody, so just thank you guys for being on today. Thank you guys for being willing to be on today. I think the dialogue was great. We're going to continue to talk about this and have these conversations. Tomorrow, actually, if you tune in tomorrow at 2:30, we will be talking about Georgia just actually passing a rule to allow for companies to sell cannabis oil in the state of Georgia. So we'll have dispensaries coming to the state of Georgia in the next 6 months.
And investments into that.
Which I am.
Me as well.
I am very, very interested in knowing how this conversation will go. You know, I don't go either way. But so people who have medical marijuana cards will be able to actually go into dispensaries now in the state of Georgia and actually be able to buy THC. So that'll be very interesting. So we'll be talking about it tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a parent on tomorrow who was fought to advocate for that. So that'll be tomorrow. But we just want to remind everybody, August 13th, we have our One Accord event, and there's information on our website and on our Facebook page about it. So if you're a pastor, you're a leader, you're in ministry, we invite you to come join us on August 13th at Tabernacle International Church in Lawrenceville, Georgia. At 6 p.m., we'll be hosted by Apostle Fritz Musser and his lovely wife, Pastor Lisa Musser. So we look forward to that event. And just stay up to date on our website, www.blackpush.org or www.nubi, that's NUBICORP.org, for more information about things that we have going on. And you guys, let's continue to just have the conversation, have the dialogue. Thank you guys for being willing to talk to me today about COVID and about, what else did we talk about today, James?
Justice.
COVID, labor,
Housing.
and justice and housing. We talked about a little bit of everything. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 2:30. And until next time, be blessed and stay safe. Wash your hands and don't be afraid to get a vaccine.
Wash your hands.